I wrote on my Facebook page a couple of weeks ago how one genuine act of love can change an entire atmosphere. One kind gesture or just simply showing someone that you love and you care about them could change that person's entire day. Because I think we all know that everyone we encounter in this life from day to day, everybody is dealing with something. So how much more awesome would it be if we encountered everybody in that day with love? Whether it's a hello with a smile, a warm smile, or if we even told someone that we love them, can you imagine what that would do for a person? Many times that one act can change a person's entire day. St. John 13:35 talks about how as being disciples of Christ, that people will know that we are of God or we are disciples of Christ based on the way that we love. We always hear the saying, well, I know in the ministry that I grew up in, we always heard that they will know us by our love. Hopefully by now you have watched the previous video before this. It was called Reflection Leads to Change. And in that video, I briefly talked about something I had encountered or something that I had been dealing with. And in the video, I briefly mentioned about going to a place and how the atmosphere was different. In past times, it was a struggle to be there. And the only reason I'm revisiting this story, because if you read the caption on that video, I feel like that video is key to my next two videos. So I posted in there about how I had went to a place that I'm very familiar with, had been to for many years, but when I would go, it was different. It felt different. I felt like this unwelcoming, this feeling like I wasn't really a part anymore, and it was very discouraging, which led me to leave this particular place. If you have been on this YouTube journey with me this entire time from my first video until now, first I want to say thank you. But if you have been on here, you have heard some of the things I have talked about, having to be faced with, having to overcome, just various things. And I've always been very transparent, and I believe that inside of my transparency, it is helping so many other people, just by me sharing the various things. No, none of it is never to like make people look bad or shine a bad light on people, but it's simply just sharing the things that I've encountered in my life in this journey and things that I've had to overcome and move on from. So talked about how I was faced with different things after my divorce. Some of you that know me personally know that my ex-husband and I were also pastors of the church we were in. We pastored there together, maybe 6-7 years. I don't know the exact amount of time, but we did pastor a church together. It was mainly him preaching. He did all the preaching. I did all the other background stuff, arranging stuff, just the organization of our location. So no, I wasn't in the pulpit, but he definitely was. But we did pastor a church together, and through our divorce, and this is my side of the story, this is the things that I have encountered or the things that I saw, I felt that people, and I think it's, the more I look at it, I don't think any of it was intentional. I think because this was something so new to the ministry that people really did not know how to handle it, and in not knowing how to handle it, it came off a certain way. So in my last video, I talked about how I would go to a place and it started to feel unwelcoming, like I was made to feel like I was not welcome there anymore. I did not have a part anymore, and it just was always uneasy. So I struggled going there, right? So in me going back and reflecting and looking at it, I think that is the revelation that God gave me, that no, it may not be that people took sides or people, just wanted to treat you a certain way or treat him a certain way. It could be because people genuinely did not know how to handle this. You're looking at your pastors that are now going through a divorce, two people that you love genuinely, and you're watching them go through this. And To some, it's heartbreaking. Some is, they don't really know how to express how they feel or whatever. But in the midst of all of that, once the divorce was over, afterwards, there were some things that, I was faced with. And that is what I felt like after the divorce. So I would not go. I ended up going to another church in another city for a while, for probably the last 2 to 3 years I've been there. But that is what I was referring to in my last video. And like I said, I've always been transparent. I don't mind. I am hesitant sometimes about sharing certain things because I know where I'm coming from in the video, but I don't always know if the people on the other side of this know me personally enough or know my heart enough to know that I'm not trying to damage anybody. I'm not trying to shine some dark light on anything. It's always my hope to show that, okay, you may be faced with this. You may be a pastor's wife or a pastor's husband that have to go through divorce, and what you may be faced with. You may be faced with a congregation of people that genuinely love both of you, but they truly do not understand, okay, how do we love them both now as individuals when we're so used to loving them as husband and wife? How do we love them now, divorce? And it could come across a certain way. It could be negative or whatever. So in that, I went to another church. So I rarely visited my previous church. I would visit here or there or whatever, but I still love the ministry. I don't visit that often. I'll come if my kids are doing something. I always come and support. My kids could be doing something in China and I'm going to get on a flight and I'm going to go and I'm going to support my kids. But in me supporting them, I would always come, but then I would leave shortly after whatever they were doing. I would leave. I would not stay the whole service. Like I said, it always felt like people would prefer I not be there, or that was the vibe that I was getting. So, okay, I'm going to come support my kids and I'm going to leave. So with that, my mother-in-law, I don't want to say ex-mother-in-law, but she really would be, but she's always been much more than a mother-in-law to me. Actually, she's always been like a mother to me. In fact, I met her and was building a relationship with her before I ever met her son. So our relationship was in place first before I ever met her son. And at the time that I met her was 2 years, maybe almost 2 full years after I had lost my mom. So you can imagine the mental state that I was in, missing my mom and that nurturing from a mother. And then I met her and it was like, oh my gosh, I feel what I got from my mother. I feel this from her, which was crazy because actually, I was about to say they never met, but they actually did meet. The year my mother passed, they actually met, not knowing that they had met. So when I met her, I just got that mother vibe from her. So those years, we were building a mother-daughter relationship before I ever married her son. We had already started establishing a relationship. I would travel with her. I would go to her house. She kind of took me under her wing and just loved and nurtured me. So now here it is. I meet her son. We start talking. We start dating. We get engaged. We get married. 16 years later, we get divorced. So now how do you separate yourself from a person who is like your mother? How do you cut that relationship too? You can't, if it was ever real love in the relationship. But it's a struggle because it happens to be his mother. So there was some rough times there, like, okay, that's his mother, but she and I still have a relationship. We have a bond. I love her. She loves me. But with everything else that was going on, I think our relationship kind of drifted a little bit. It didn't dissolve, but it kind of drifted a little bit. And for me, I felt like I needed to step back because, okay, now you have this new daughter-in-law. I don't want to be around, and it seems like it's competition and we're competing because you really do now have to establish and build a relationship with your son's new wife. Okay, I'm not in the picture anymore, but now you have to build this relationship with her, which I didn't mind. I always knew, okay, once we divorce, there's a chance he's going to get married again, and this new person, this new young lady, is going to have to build a relationship with his mother. But let me just say, when the devil hates unity, when the devil hates that there's real love that exists between people, he will try to work his way in there and make all type of things go wrong. He would try to cause division. He would start making you feel, well, they don't care about me, they don't love me, or whatever. And if you give him that space, trust me, he gonna make it monumental. And for me, I started feeling like, well, she doesn't care about me, she doesn't love me, out of sight, out of mind. I've stepped back and now I don't really exist, right? So the devil had his way in my mind concerning our relationship. Again, it never, ever, ever was a problem with us. We did not have any issues that caused us to stop talking to each other. No, our divorce did not drive a wedge between her and I relationship. Like I said, I love her genuinely, and I know she loves me. She has been there with me through some of the toughest times. When my father passed away, she was on a plane with me and my sister and flew all the way to London with us. Whenever there was things going on, when I've had surgery, she would clear her schedule to make sure she was here in town with me. There's various situations that I can name that whenever something went down, I could turn around and she was there. I could call her in the middle of the night. Didn't matter where she was in the world, I could call her, because that's the type of relationship that we have. I remember not long ago, well, I guess it is long ago now, about 2 years ago, when I went to go visit her in Texas, one of her staff members was at the house, and she told me about a time. She's like, you probably don't even know this. She's like, but she loves you. She really loves you. I was like, I know. They was like, no, I don't think you realize how much she loves you. And I said, well, why are you saying it like that? She said, do you know she was over in Jamaica one time doing ministry stuff, and she was very tired, she was worn out, and she wanted to get some rest. But she told me as she was about to go to sleep, she said, if Mishika calls my phone, wake me up. And that meant so much to me. Like, you way in another country. I don't know what I could have been doing at the time, but I was on your heart and your mind at the time, that you would tell your staff, okay, if she calls, wake me up. And that just meant so much. But that's the relationship between mother and daughter. So recently, and I'm going to try to say this without crying, because it was so big. So the last time I physically talked to her was around Mother's Day. I had called her, she was in church, so she didn't get the call. So she called me back later, and I think my oldest daughter happened to be in Texas at the time with them. So she called me back. I was like, oh, I didn't want anything. I just was calling to say happy Mother's Day or whatever, and I hope you have a good day. And of course, I love you. I hope to see you soon. Spend some time with you or whatever. That was the end of the conversation. So we hadn't seen each other. So July comes around, and if you know anything about the ministry, every year we have World Conference. Remember, I had not been going to the ministry, so I've been hesitant about going to certain events. But my daughter tells me on that Sunday, hey, Ma, I'm dancing tonight. Are you coming? So I was like, sure, I'll come. So I rush, do something to my head so I can go and be presentable or whatever. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to watch her dance, and I'm not going to stay the whole service, and I'll be leaving. Well, let me tell you, God knows what it is that you need. Because at that point in time in my life, the season that I was in, I was dealing with so much stuff. I was dealing with crazy stuff. Like, I had not talked to like I said, I feel crazy saying my ex-mother-in-law, but I hadn't talked to my mother in a while, and she did not know anything about what was going on. And I was so in a rough spot, depressed. I was exhausted because I wasn't sleeping. I was just really weighted down and didn't know what to do in this situation, very discouraged. And I even got to a place, and I know this may be shocking or whatever, like, dog, you would share that level of vulnerability? Yes, I would, because I've sat down and I talked to my kids about it, and they were like stuck. And I think they've been very attentive to me since I shared that, because you just do not know what it is that people are dealing with. So in that season or that moment that I was going through, I was so depressed that I was like, this is it. I'm tired. I don't want to do this no more. I'm throwing in the towel. I don't even want to live anymore. And that's the place that I was in. And my kids was like, Mommy, why do you, I end up telling them, and it was like, why do you feel that way? I just said, I feel like all of this is so much bigger than me. So I got all of that weight on me, but I go to church, right? I push and I go to church, and I'm like, I don't care, what people think. I don't care how people feel. I'm going to support my daughter or whatever. So I'm sitting in church, and if you know where my mother sits in the church, she sits in the pulpit, right? So I'm in the back of the church. I normally, when I come, I don't want to be the attention. I don't want the attention. I don't want the focal point on me. I sit in the back, chill or whatever, attentive. I leave whenever my kids are done. So she's in the pulpit. I stopped to look down at my phone. I don't know, probably a text or something came in. So I stopped to look at my phone, right? So remember, the last time I looked up, she was sitting in the pulpit. The next moment I look up, she's almost to my seat, right? So I'm shocked and I'm scared, because if you know her, if she leave that pulpit and come to your seat, she either coming to rebuke or she coming to pray for you. So I look up, I get out my seat, I stand up to hug her. And if I could go back in that moment in time, y'all, that embrace, that hug from her was like, it was a magical moment. And I know that may sound crazy, but with everything I was carrying, every thought, every feeling, every emotion I was feeling at the moment, her coming to hug me and what she said to me, I won't disclose everything that she said because I feel like it is personal and it should remain private. But she said one sentence. Well, she said multiple sentences, but she said, I want you to know that I love you and nothing has ever changed in our relationship. And I want the very best for you. And in that moment of her hugging me, number one, I felt that type of embrace that I would have had with my mother. But in that moment of hugging her and her hugging me, it was like she took the weight off of me. And it was like a sigh of relief. Like, I can't even explain how just that hug. But that's what happens when people love you. They genuinely love you. And it's just those type of moments sometimes that's needed. You need to be reminded that people love you. It doesn't matter what the devil has said. It doesn't matter what people have said and how people have tried to get in and divide certain relationships. It doesn't matter. When people genuinely love you for you and it's real, none of that can get in the way. And I was so blessed by God in that moment because it was freeing for me. And it was a reminder that, okay, not only is she mindful and she loves you, but God is too. And I remember I said it would be difficult for me to sit and stay in certain services because I just didn't know how people felt, and just the air sometimes is not right. But in that moment, it's almost like the Holy Ghost was telling me, it's okay to be here. And when I felt that, immediately I made a decision. Okay, I haven't been to a world conference every session in over 5 years. Again, that's a week-long conference with some days have 2 sessions a day. I made that decision in that moment. I'm going to be here. But let me tell you how tricky the mind is. The mind was working against me. Now, my heart is freeing, but my mind is like, oh, but people gonna be looking a certain way and you might get rebuked, or certain messages might be about you and you run the risk of, drawing attention to yourself if you're here every day. And it's like, I did not care in that moment because I know what I needed from God in that moment. And I knew when she came to me, I knew that was God letting me know, this is where you need to be. And that's when I made the decision to attend church that whole week. So later that night, I don't think it was that night, maybe a day or two later, I went and I told her, I said, I don't know what led you to get out of your seat to come to my seat, but it was needed because I had not planned on being here more than that one day. I planned to come support my child, and that was it. I said, but when you did what you did, I knew that you still love me, and God was reminding me of his love for you. And she simply said, the Lord led me to come to you. So that's why it is so important, y'all, to let love lead. Don't let nobody come between the love you have for people, a person, whoever. Do not let people get in there. And I'm not saying people got in it. I think it was more so, thoughts and the devil working in our relationship and, more so pulling me back. I can't blame nothing on her. I will be transparent about myself. But don't let anything get in between the love you have for people, and don't stop the love that people are trying to extend and show you. People are dying every day, and some people are dying not knowing that they are loved. They feel like nobody don't love them. And I know we all, well, I won't say I know we all, I'll say me. I know when I get in certain seasons and going through certain tests and trials, when I back away and I'm in my bubble, many of y'all that know me know when I disappear and I'm off to myself. But in that being off to myself, yeah, I'm praying and I'm seeking God, but that don't mean the devil stops working. Oh, he working overtime because he wants to keep you in that spot. He wants to keep you in that spot that looks like you have no hope. All hope is lost. Why you keep chasing God? God got you in this depressing state. He don't care. He hasn't come to see about you. But that's a lie. God loves you. God is there. God is present. God is waiting to hear from you, seek him, cry out to him, whatever you got to do. God is right there. And God already has a plan for you to get through this season. But many times we get trapped up because the devil is saying, oh, no, God don't love you. You see, he done left you by yourself. You all by yourself. Ain't nobody here. Look, you look around. Where are your friends at? Where your God at? That's what the devil does. Anything to keep us down, to keep us not seeking God, not trusting God, not remembering that God loves us. That is the whole plan of the enemy. So we got to push past that. Whatever we got to do, we got to push past. We got to be open to love people, and we got to be open to let people love us. So I hope this video was a blessing in some type of way. I hope it inspires you to go out and love those people that you love. Even if they be resistant, go love them anyway. Go love on your people and let your people love on you. Y'all have a blessed afternoon.